Hey, what's up, everybody? Another great episode of Fourth Person Point of View, baby. Something I wanted to talk about today. Something I wanted to bring to your attention. Are you aware? Or should I say, are we? Are we living in the middle of a Trump revolution? Something that many people are not thinking about. So I was online looking at everything Trump has done. That bastard hadn't been in office too long. What, like 31, 32 days? No, not quite. Not quite. We're knocking on 30. Let's say the 19th. So just shy of 30. So let's look at what is the definition of a revolution. According to the Oxford reference, it says a revolution is a forcible overthrow of government or social order in favor of a new system. 2, an instance of revolving revolutionism. See if we can get another definition just to make sure that one wasn't tripping. This here is LSD.law, and it's right of revolution. Let's see what that says. The right of revolution is the inherent right of a people to overthrow their rulers, change their government, or make radical reforms in their institutions by force or general uprising. The right is exercised when legal and constitutional methods of making such changes have proved inadequate or unavailable due to obstruction. Let's see if we can get one more. Just one more. Oh man, according to Merriam-Webster, a sudden, radical, or complete change, a fundamental change in political organization, especially the overthrow or renunciation of one government or ruler and the substitution of another by the governed. C, activity or movement designed to effect fundamental changes in the socio-economic situation. D, a fundamental change in the way of thinking about or visualizing something, a change of paradigm. And E, a change over in use or preference, especially in technology. I mean, I guess you got Elon Musk ass in there. I guess that right there hits on that technology. So if you are tracking here, with all that's going on, is what made me wonder. So just to bring y'all in on this, here in the United States, most of the time when we think about a revolution, we think about our own revolution. You know, the American Revolution was started in 1775. Some people consider 1765 because that's when the Stamp Act happened, and that's when a lot of traction of rebelling started in the United States. Yes, that's right. So 1775 to 1783. But some are going to use it, especially in the academic world. They're going to say 1765 because that's when the Stamp Act started. But we're familiar with the American Revolution when America was trying to gain its independence from Britain. So from that point up until now, there have been a few moments in American history where the people came together and we kind of, well, they or us kind of rebelled because they wanted to see change. So what made me think of this Trump era as being a revolution? So Trump has been in office shy of 30 days. And listen to this right here. So listen to this right here. So day one, January the 20th. I got to get a table here. Birthright citizenship. Trump's executive order seeks to end a constitutional protection on birthright citizenship. He hit the asylum access. Trump's executive order suspends access to asylum seekers at the southwest border. Firing federal employees. Trump's executive order reinstates the Schedule F classification for certain federal employees, a move experts say would make it easier for him to fire many career federal employees. Then he established DOGE, D-O-G-E, which was supposed to be Vivek Ramaswamy, but Vivek Ramaswamy is running for governor of Ohio, so now it's just Elon Musk, and Musk's ass is very active. Then he had the transgender recognition. Trump's executive order directs the federal government to recognize only two sexes, prevent transgender female inmates from serving time in women's prisons, and end gender-affirming care for those in federal prison. Day 2, January 21st, he ended the DEI programs. Day 5, January 24th, he fired inspector generals. Trump fired roughly 17 inspector generals across various federal agencies without giving Congress its legally required 30 days. Day 8, January 27th, he banned transgender people from the military. He also had a federal funding freeze. Trump administration issued a memorandum temporarily pausing all federal, foreign, and domestic aid, which different federal courts blocked January 28, 29, and 31st. Day 9, January 28, in gender-affirming medical care. Trump issued executive order ending federal support of gender-affirming medical treatments for people under 19, which is being challenged. So then he had the federal worker buyout. An email sent to federal employees offered them a buyout if they resigned from their roles. Day 10, January 29th, housing migrants at Guantanamo Bay. Presidential memorandum directed at the Secretaries of the Defense and Homeland Department sought to expand the use of Guantanamo Bay to house migrants. The day 12, January 31st, DOGE access to Treasury Department, which is being challenged right now. Day 13, February the 1st, USAID administrative leave. Two top officials at USAID were put on administrative leave after they refused to let DOGE representatives without security clearances into restricted areas of the building. Day 14, February the 2nd, he dismantles USAID. Elon Musk and Trump advocated for shuttering USAID. You know, that's when they took the letters off the side of the building and they put the black bag over the emblem. Then we got day 16, February the 4th, taking over Gaza. Trump proposed during a news conference that the U.S. would take over the Gaza Strip and forcibly remove hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from the enclave, which that's a controversial subject now because a lot of the Palestinians say they are not leaving their native land. But Trump said that Benjamin Netanyahu does not have a plan, so he proposed one, and they're still in the works of that right now. Then you had the FBI employees in the January 6 cases. FBI Director Brian DeScrow turned over information on more than 5,000 FBI employees who worked on January 6 cases. Day 17, February the 5th, transgender sports ban. Trump signed executive order banning transgender women and girls from competing in female sports, which was a good thing, I feel. On February the 12th, two transgender teenage girls in New Hampshire challenged the order in court. And day 20, shuttering CFPB. Russell Vought, the Trump-appointed acting director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, directed the agency to halt most of its work and closed its headquarters the following week. Day 22, February the 10th, violation of federal funding freezing order. The federal judge who blocked the Trump administration federal funding freeze on January 31st said the administration violated his temporary restraining order by continuing to improperly freeze federal funds. Day 24, February 12th, dismissive statements about the judiciary. In a social media post, Musk suggested judges should be impeached for using their oversight to check the power of the Trump administration. Day 26, February the 14th, Justice Department files motion to dismiss charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Day 27, February the 15th, Trump issues provocative quote, suggested he is above the law. That's what they said on here. And that's all that's on here. That was on usnews.com. Dated, it doesn't have a date on, well, February the 18th. That's by Alan Cronenberg. So, with that being said, all that right there, and what really puts the nail in the coffin for whether this is a Trump revolution or not, you remember all those people who invaded the Capitol on January the 6th? So Trump pardoned roughly 1,500 people that were either in prison or getting ready to go to prison. He pardoned all of them, which means, hey, he pardoned his people, and he caught a lot of backlash, but I don't think Trump cares. A lot of Republican people don't care either. And technically, it was the January 6th riot, which makes it even more like, okay, are we in a revolution or not? Oh, man. So, yes, and he also commuted the sentences of 14 of his supporters in connection with the attack on the U.S. Capitol. So I want to read off some of the notable world revolutions here. So started, like I said earlier, the American Revolution, which they have 1765 to 1783. And that 1765, for some of y'all who might not know, that's because of the Stamp Act, which is when a lot of the rebelling started, just FYI. You had the French Revolution, which was 1789 to 1799, which abolished the French monarchy. You got that amazing Haitian Revolution, which occurred from 1791 to 1804 and ended Napoleon's attempts to create a French empire in the Western Hemisphere. You got the Russian Revolution, 1917 to 1923, and inspired political unrest and armed revolts around the world. You got the Chinese Revolution, 1949, and led to the rise of the People's Republic of China as a global superpower. And they didn't become a global superpower then, just FYI. It was a few decades later when they became a superpower. Then you got the Iranian Revolution, caused by a conservative backlash against westernization and secularization efforts. You got the revolutions of 1848, a series of European nationalist revolutions where the masses rose up against their monarchs. You got the Civil Rights Revolution, which is what it was. And that's going to be, 1954 to 1968. You got all the civil rights movements, Freedom Summer, all that good stuff. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panther Party. You got John F. Kennedy, his brother, and you got Johnson all doing that. That was a revolution too. Then you got the Tiananmen Square protest and massacre, which was 1989, and led to a military crackdown on anti-government protests. Then you got the Velvet Revolution, which occurred in Czechoslovakia and overthrew the communist regime. Those are some notable world revolutions, which brings me back to my question. Are we witnessing a Trump revolution? So you pardon all these January 6th rioters, then you bring a guy in, and what do? They lay off thousands upon thousands of federal employees. So the federal government technically is the U.S. government. So you got the Constitution there, you got the infrastructure, all that right there. So our government is kind of being pushed from side to side. That is technically a revolution, I think. Is it? Tell me what you think. So if you kind of dismantle the current government infrastructure that's in place, that means you are bringing about a different change, a different vision. And also, I don't know if you've been watching the news, you remember Vice President J.D. Vance went to Europe and he pissed a lot of them off because he told them that the United States is going to stop fronting all the bills and you have to contribute more to the Department of Defense. Because many, many decades ago, Europe pulled some weak shit and they kind of outsourced their protection, if that makes sense, which I learned about this in graduate school. So they kind of outsourced their defense to NATO, which who makes up the majority of NATO? Most of it's going to be the United States. So I always wondered who did that weak shit. It had to have been some upper class prick, because I don't think no country with a modicum of common sense would outsource its defense, because your country can be invaded too. And you cannot always depend on a country across the ocean to come to your aid. So Trump has pissed a lot of European leaders off, saying, hey, y'all gonna have to put more of your finances into the Department of Defense. And I think he told them that they need to get up to around 3, 4 to 5%. And they're going to have to get more of their citizens to be in the military, which they're not going to like either, because trust me, that's going to become a problem, because you're going to get a lot of weak motherfuckers that feel like they shouldn't serve in the military. And then you're not going to get a bunch of poor people and use them as pawns. That's one reason I have so much respect for Prince Harry. Prince Harry is a real life prince. He is. Even though England has a different government, he is a prince. He's the only prince in the United States. He's probably one of the few princes in the world. But Prince Harry is a real life veteran. He served in the military and he deployed, which I don't understand why some of these other losers from Europe are not serving in the military. Now, they do have small militaries over there, but it's not enough to defend. And that's what President Trump is saying. Y'all going to spend more of your money on military spending, and you finna get more people involved in your militaries. So now Europe is having a big discussion, because basically Trump pulled the rug from under them, and now they got to go and have a lot of meetings, because they got to build up the military inside of their countries, which is going to piss a lot of people off, because you got a lot of people that have never thought about joining the military because the quotas are so low. But now all of a sudden, more people are either going to be forced to join, or they're going to have a draft. And even though this is technically a peacetime for a lot of our European allies, if you never thought about joining the military and it never crossed your mind, but now a person says, hey, we got a quota of X amount of people, so X amount of people have to join, that's kind of, that's kind of a low blow to the current structure you have there. So with the pardoning of the January 6 rioters, with the massive layoffs and firings in the United States federal workforce, with the sudden change in Department of Defense spending in Europe, and the fact that the military has to increase its ranks, all that right there throws society off. And if you keep in mind too, another thing that's happening right now, the mass immigration in the United States. A lot of the Democrats were more lenient towards illegal immigrants staying in the country, but Trump said, hell no, you got to get the hell out of here. And he's using the military to get rid of them. That's what I read earlier about the Guantanamo Bay prison being used to house immigrants. Excuse me, my mouth's dry. Yeah, he's using Guantanamo Bay to house migrants. So you had a lot of migrants in the United States from different parts of the world who had got in certain places and got comfortable. They were trying to build. Now, all of a sudden, they got family members all over the world that they probably been communicating with by text message or whatever. Now, all of a sudden, you call your family and you said, I'm in the United States. Now your ass is in Guantanamo Bay prison, and you don't know what's going to happen to them. I'm sure they probably on their way back to their native country, but just the fact, you see all these moving pieces. And then let's not forget what the Trump administration is trying to do to the public education system. Even though they are saying that the state should handle education, it's still somebody pulling the rug out from the current system that you're used to. I've been hearing a lot of people on the news talk about how the funding of education is something necessary for students who have special needs. So they said, while y'all are changing these policies, these people here are going to be affected. So once again, are we in a Trump revolution? And then finally, if you go back to one of the biggest things that shook the world up was U.S. aid, which I did a podcast on U.S. aid a few weeks ago. A lot of people in foreign countries, especially Africa and a lot of its countries, really depended on U.S. aid for people who had HIV and AIDS. A lot of people, that's how they got their medical supplies, because their countries are not developed enough or don't have the infrastructure to put in place to support these. And you got people like the Egyptians and I think Jordan. And also with that U.S. aid, America was giving a lot of money to a lot of countries that they had been using to fund certain things that they felt like was, it wasn't something that was life or death, but it was kind of like pleasurable things like films. You know, you're funding Facebook workshops and shit. You know, things that help kids. They had the Bird Ernie stuff overseas, which I think was like $20 million. I mean, you can go look up Senator Ron Paul's waste report, and you can see a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. But there was a lot of things in there that were wasteful. I will admit they were wasteful, but some things, like I said, other countries were depending on just because they didn't have the money and the United States did. So once again, the rug has been pulled from under a lot of different people worldwide. So back to my question. Are we in the middle of a Trump revolution? They might not even refer to it as a revolution. But according to definition, I think we are witnessing a Trump revolution. I do. I was online doing some research earlier on the history of revolutions, and basically what it did, it took me to the history of political thought. So you've had all type of revolutions throughout history. You've had the Industrial Revolution. I think we had a Scientific Revolution. So this revolution right here, if that's what we're going to call it, would fall somewhere between a social and a political. It will lean more towards a political revolution because it involves the United States president, the federal government, federal programs, federal employees, and a lot of federal spending, which is connected to United States foreign policy and aid, which some of the aid is used in that budget. The purpose of it is it's kind of like giving a bunch of people in the global community a cookie or a piece of candy saying, hey, this reward here, this money, this whatever came from the United States of America. And they say they feel like if they give aid to other countries, other countries' citizens won't be so quick to go join terrorist groups and later on fight against the United States. So it goes more to the political revolution than a social revolution. And the illegal immigration would fall more on the political side too, even though a lot of Hispanic citizens who are born and raised in America, or they came to America and got their citizenship, a lot of them are advocating on behalf of the migrants. That's kind of in the ballpark of a social, but even that would fall more into the political because it kind of borderlines on a national security risk, because that's what too many immigrants illegally are to a country like the United States. That's why we have borders. So you couldn't technically call that a revolution either, even though they are protesting in the streets. That would fall more on the political side. So I ask you once again, are we witnessing a Trump revolution right before our eyes? I think we are in the middle of a Trump political revolution. But what you want to remember, Revolutions don't happen every day. They don't. They don't. And you should get involved, because when everything is moving around and there's being a new order, you should throw your opinions out there. Somebody should hear your voice. They should. Whatever you don't like or you dislike, you should let your damn congressman know. You should let your city councilman know, hey, this has been going on for too long, and I agree with this part, but I disagree with this part, because that's what they're doing now. And when all this stuff settles, we're going to have a different America. For the better or for the worse, things are changing. A lot of people who felt like when Trump first came out and he was talking this DEI talk, a lot of y'all, you didn't care. You didn't care because you thought it was only black people that was going to be affected by it. So you sit up and you heard it. You said it's not going to affect me. But when he pulled the rug from under everybody's ass, and now you see it don't matter if you black, white, rich or poor. You can be in education. You can be in the federal government. It's affecting everybody. Now everybody's trying to get involved, which I think that's fair. I think it's only right. Because if you sit back and you watch somebody say something and you think it's going to affect another person's livelihood and you don't say nothing because it's not affecting you, you deserve whatever hell you get, you piece of shit. You do. I own it. That's how I feel. And I'm not wrong either. You know I'm telling the truth. When y'all thought DEI was just going to affect black people and their livelihood and their jobs, a lot of y'all sit y'all asses down and didn't say nothing. You smirked. Some of you racist losers with your poor ass, you chuckled and said, ha, 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 goody, goody, goody. But now that he's pulling the damn rug from under everybody's ass, hey, the chickens are coming home to roost and you getting bit in your ass too. So, that's all I have to say about that, man. But I want to know from you all, are we in the middle of a Trump revolution? Or is it just dusty and we just waiting on the dust to settle? I'd like to know what you think about it. This has been Fourth Person Point of View, baby. I'm out.